Just doing a sound check, make sure everything's okay. I'm also just going to transition to our Scratch program. There we go, and have a look at this. I'm going to click the green flag now, and hopefully my game will start. There we go. I'm going to test out the changes to my game. Let's see what happens if I go through here. Oh no, I died. Okay, I'll transition back to the holding screen and turn the sound off now. Good morning and welcome to the live Q&A about our Hedgehog game today. First, I'm going to cover a few common problems, but if you've got any questions, any problems that you discovered, then please just ask. Let me just see if there's any questions come in already. No, nothing yet. I'm just going to turn on my thing that helps you see the mouse pointer. I forgot to turn that on. Let me just grab that now, and then hopefully you'll be able to see my clicks better. There we go. Right, let's go over some common problems then. So first of all, one thing you might find, I'm going to demonstrate here. So if I play my game, here's my little hedgehog. I'm going to go over to this gate here, and nothing happens. And if you have a look at the code, you think, oh, that looks okay. So this is the code for the gates. We've got 3 different yellows here. And this one looks like it's the same as this one, but actually it's not. I changed the shade very slightly. So I moved it slightly this way on the saturation. So I know it's not the right colour. So if your gates aren't working, make sure you've got the right colour. Use this dropper function because it's really hard to match it otherwise, unless you know the RGB values or something like that. So go over here and hover over that yellow gate there and click. Now let's try it again. Let's get my hedgehog over there, avoiding the deep hole. Ooh, a bit close, but I got through. I'm going to just go through the badger there. Perfect, it works again. So make sure you check you're in the right place as well. So now we're in this garden, we can check this other colour here, this brighter yellow. So if I go back this way, yeah, that one still works. And we've got the one at the bottom there, which again is a slightly different colour. They don't look that much different, particularly these two in this garden. And it's to make it a tricky game to play. Yeah, that one works too. So if your gates aren't working, really make sure you've checked those colours, okay? I think that looks good now. My game is working again. So other problems you might have is that when you start your game again, so if I click the green flag, all my sprites come back, everything's there. You'll notice the netting isn't there, but that's because I've set my up to appear in the second garden. So if we go through, yep, the netting's here. Also the hog house is here too. So if I go back into the other garden, oh, I've got the hog house in both actually. I thought I'd set it up so it was only in one. So that's something to have a look at. I'm going to scroll down and have a look at my hog house and see if I can change that. So when backdrop switches to garden to show and when flag clicked hide, oh, I think my hog house should appear in the right places. Ah, there we go. Maybe it was just some change I made there. Okay, so that works fine. So make sure that your sprites appear and disappear as they're meant to. It's something you need to look at in each one. Whatever isn't appearing, you have to have a look at the code. And what you need to look for is after the when flag clicked block, you need to see a show block, so that when the flag is clicked, it will show if you want it to show in each garden. If you don't, then for example, the netting one, we added this block here, when backdrop switches to. So that one's quite handy. Backdrop switches to garden 2 in this case. You can make it show. If you're feeling really brave, then you can add more gardens and then different things can come up in each garden, so you can make it more complicated. Next week we'll look at doing that because we're going to be using cloning, so we can make different things appear in different gardens, different amount of beetles and worms. This week we haven't covered that, so leave it for now. Right, what else might you come across? So we use the message function in this game, and it's not something that we've covered before. Let's have a look at that. It's really useful. We've got this broadcast command here from the events category. And it's really useful because you can come up with your own message. So here we've got hide sprites. You can come up with a new message. And so we could create some new ones here to try them out. So perhaps you could have, you want all the sprites to appear, so you could have show sprites. You can make all sorts of messages, and it's a way to send signals from one part of the game to another so that you know that something has happened. For example, you could have a new message which you'll spot in the full game. You could have a message saying die, so when the health goes below a certain value, you broadcast the message die, and then you have an end screen. So at the moment we've got a screen that displays if you've won, but you could also make one that displays when the hedgehog has died. So we'll leave that one for now, we don't need that one there. But if you want to use those, they're really useful. The one to use them is this thing up here, when I receive hide sprites. And we've put that in almost all the sprites now. I don't think it has it in the hedgehog, we've got hide instead. So when I receive hide sprites, then hide. So that's a really useful way of controlling your program without having to add delays, how long you think something will happen and then make it hide. Message is a much more efficient way to do that. The other thing we used quite a bit in this game was the backpack down here. So I thought I'd just cover this. So if you click the backpack, it opens and you can see I've got some code in there. If you right click on that, you can delete it. And this is a way to copy code. So it keeps the code in the sprite that you've got it in and then can add it to another game. One thing you might notice is that you can't see the code. So let's try that out. I'm just going to add a random bit of code to my backpack. So really I wouldn't want to transfer this one. Okay, the backpack should highlight in blue. Sometimes it gets a bit funny and doesn't do that. I don't yet know why. Let's see if it works this time. No, okay, so backpack doesn't want to work right now. But what you need to do is drag it over here until this highlights in blue, let go of it, it'll appear in the black backpack, and then drag it out again when you got to your next sprite. If I have a look at one of the worms, you'll see that you think we put it in from the backpack, this hide command. So when you receive the message hide sprites, then hide. But you have a look at your code and it doesn't seem visible. It's that you think, oh no, it hasn't worked. And so you try and add it again and again. But if you right click and clean up blocks, there we go. It was just hidden behind something, so it was there. Another way is if you know keyboard shortcuts, you can click on something and then do Control C and then click on another sprite and click on the script area and do Control V, and that was the code that we've copied. So that's another way to do it. We don't need that one in the badger, so I'm going to throw it away. If you're aware of those shortcuts, those work quite well too. If you're not, then the backpack's probably easier because sometimes it's hard to do them in the right place. Right, I think that's shown quite a few things. Let's have a look at the backdrops. So I'm going to show you how to find the backdrops. You click on the backdrop that you've got down here, the garden, the stage area, and then at the top left you've got this backdrop tab, which isn't going right now. Come on. There we go. Now here's all our gardens. I've still got garden 1 in here, which was the original one we started with. You don't need to keep that in there. You can just delete it if you want. It might save hassle in terms of picking the wrong garden when you're playing your game. So you've got the 2 gardens. You might have chosen garden 3 instead of garden 2. And you've got the night city with street. And you've got U1. And I just thought I'd show you from the other Hedgehog game, which you'll have played right at the beginning. There's the full Hedgehog game, which I'm in here, which has got lots more gardens in it. You can have a look at some of them here. But also, it's got a totally different You Have Won screen, which I thought was quite cool. You might want to include a hedgehog in your You've Won screen so that you can show that the hedgehog's still alive. In this game, there's also a You Have Died one, which you might want to look at for your game. Remember, you'd probably have to set up a broadcast message saying die to get that to trigger this backdrop coming up. So it might be something you want to look at. I think that covers all the common problems. I think this one's just a bit fiddly in terms of making sure you get all the code in the right places. So it's worth taking your time, following all the instructions, and if in doubt, just read through your code and check that you've got everything there. Okay, and then hopefully it should work and you've got awesome game where you can go into the next garden. You've done really well making this game. Next week we're going to go on to cloning, which will be really handy and can make some quite complex, interesting games. So it's a really useful skill to learn. I just want to show you something on our website. So this is our website, earthgames.uk. I showed before about how to share your game and send us the link, so we'd love to see some of your games, so do let us know. The other thing that you might be interested in is this competition. So we're running a competition for our insect competition. You can either make a board game or you can make a game in Scratch. So that's why you might be interested in this. It ends on the 31st of July, so you've still got plenty of time. You've got probably 6 weeks to make a game in Scratch. And I think it says down here, here's the category. So Scratch games are for 8 to 11-year-olds, and you've got to include one of 3 different insects. You've got hoverflies, dung beetles, or mayflies. So there's lots of information on the website. And as it says, there are some brilliant prizes for all categories, ranging from trail cams, digital cameras, Ants Nest and Amazon vouchers. So if you're interested, do register for that. If you are doing that, then you might want to look at the resources here, because in the image library, we've got some sprites that you can use. So the sprite library is here, and there's a video explaining how to use it. So you can add all sorts of interesting sprites. So if you're entering the insect competition, it's worth having a look at that, okay? I'll just have a look and see if anybody's asked any questions relating to the game this week. If not, then I'll summarise. No, looking good. I don't think we've got any questions there today. So to summarise, just check your code, read through everything, make sure you've got all those hides and shows in the right places. It's quite fiddly because we've got lots of sprites now and we've got lots of bits of code. So do read through your code carefully and watch out for these colours because they are very similar. So if in doubt, use the dropper again to make sure you've got the right colour. Next week will be the cloning. If you want to have a look already on our website, you can have a look at the instructions there. And if any problems in the meantime, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Remember, on the website there's this Ask an Expert link, so you can send us your questions and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you for watching and see you next week at 10 o'clock for lesson 6B.